Good evening. Welcome everybody. And tonight's talk is on insights into Vasudi, the throat chakra. I'll put up a slide in a minute, but I just want to introduce you to the throat chakra because it's a really important one, especially at this time, because increasing numbers of people are opening the heart and the throat chakra. Now, the throat cannot fully open until the other four centers are open and functioning well. It's quite a major, I suppose, leap to start to open the throat. And the throat is very much about purification. It's about purification of your expression. So when the throat chakra opens, people have stepped into taking responsibility for the spoken word. Okay, so they become impeccable with their word. It's associated with self-expression and creativity and the expression of ideas. So what we get through the throat chakra is we get communication that is truthful. Okay, so when it opens and functioning, the person is able to communicate truthfully in a way that is harmless, that causes no harm. Okay, and it's also associated with listening. Okay, but with actively listening to understand. So the difference between listening to win an argument or already formulating your reply before you finish listening, it's not, it's totally listening with a quiet mind so that not just the words are picked up, but the tone and resonance and vibration and maybe even meaning behind the words that's not necessarily in the words. So with the throat chakra, we might start to be able to understand what someone means, even if their words are clumsy. So if someone's very emotional and they're having trouble expressing themselves, there's a resonance with how they are that doesn't require words. So we're starting to move toward the development of a telepathic type of understanding between people with the throat. And next week when we talk about the Ajna, the third eye chakra. So it's also about being able to internally listen to the self. So the throat chakra really starts to open up the higher centers and the ability to listen inwardly to the higher self. And that obviously, especially as the Ajna, the third eye, starts to open, we get amazing intuitive insights. We get people lifting up onto that higher Buddhic plane and being able to express their higher Buddhic nature and often to almost become channels for information to come through them as a vessel. So when a person's throat center starts to open and function, their thought and speech slow down and communication is more considered. So I remember as a child, my father, think before you speak. So this comes naturally. Okay. Mastering the throat helps us to understand the process of purifying because it becomes an expression of our thoughts as the words purify. So the mind, it's a reflection of a mind that is becoming cleansed and purified. And it's also about honest expression. So when the throat opens, there's an ability to say how we feel honestly and having the confidence to communicate emotionally with others. So there's an aspect of the heart linking with the throat brings in some of those real qualities of emotional intelligence we find in people who can really express how they're feeling. So I'll just put up a slide so we can look at some of the associations. No, my mouse has stopped. Here we go. So the throat, remember the heart was associated with air. The throat is associated with sound and with vibration. It's very much associated with the creativity, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the lifting of the energies from the sacral chakra, creative expression, up into the throat, creative expression, toward the end of the talk. It's a masculine and yang energy, and it has a 16-petaled lotus. And within those petals, we have all of the Sanskrit vowels, because associated with sound and with communication. The downward pointing triangle here is the speech coming from the higher centers, that considered wise speech, I suppose you would say, coming down and through the throat out into matter. And then the symbol in the middle, I don't want to go into a lot, but there's a full moon. The throat, this emotional expression is associated with the moon, and also associated with the Airavata, which in the Hindu belief is a many-tusked elephant, seen as the king of elephants. And the idea is this is a link between spirit and matter, because this is really where the link between spirit and matter is really developing quite profoundly in the individual. And this master of the elephants can draw up the water of the emotion and spray it up into the ethers to create clouds that bring the rains down. So it's the idea that it's this communication is the link between the higher centers and their expression in matter. So we can't spiritualize matter if we can't express in the world. It's associated with the color blue, almost a turquoisey blue, and actually the crystal turquoise heals and resonates with the throat. And it's a calming and a cooling and a purifying, a cleansing energy, and also the ability to start to gain knowledge from higher planes. Okay, so the person who has opened the heart is living a life from an open-hearted point of view, from an open-hearted place, can start to move up into much higher expressions. So the element is ether, and ether is otherwise known as akasha or spirit. It's associated with knowledge, and it's where we refine our awareness enough to be aware of the subtle field of vibrations in which we find ourselves. So the etheric plane, we start through the throat, we start to be in touch with this all-encompassing, unifying field of subtle vibrations that are found throughout the universe. So in science, it is called the field, and they're starting to recognize that it's like a sort of a plasma that's electrically charged. And the thing about ether is it's communication channels, so energy can move through it. So vibration and sound affect matter. And as we climb higher up the chakras, what we find is each one vibrates faster, a higher vibration, and it's more efficient. So light is a faster vibration than sound. The Arjuna is associated with light. Here we had air, ether, light. We're moving up into far subtler energies. Sound waves produce patterns, and these patterns are creative. So if you think of the Bible, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In the Hindu belief, you have the Aum, or the Om is the sound of creation. It is Brahman, or God, universality. When we're operating at the throat, we're more aware of things at a vibrational level. So like I said, we'll respond more to the tone of the words used than the actual words used. And we start to develop our own rhythm in our physical vehicle, in our body, and in our life, so that increasingly the person wants to be, and it can be, calm and centered. And if they're thrown from that calm, centered place, they return to it. And then they attract more calm, centered energy, and they emanate this vibration so that those around them feel calm and centered. So there's a resonance when two sound waves join, okay, when they are in the same frequency and they lock into phase with each other. So as one goes up, the other goes up as they come down. But what happens when they might be resonating at the same frequency, but when they come into phase with each other, they increase this amplitude of the vibrational frequency. And this increases the power, the energy, and the volume. And so when things come into resonance, they have more impact. Okay, we come into resonance with each other because we are vibrational beings. And we are aware of vibration. We are aware of energy and frequencies. For example, if you walk into a room where there's been an argument or a conflict and you come in before the energy has cleared, you can feel it. If you walk into a situation where two people have had a conflict or been arguing, even though they might be saying, yeah, we're fine, and they're pretending to be fine, you can feel it if they're not. You can feel when people are out of phase and out of resonance with each other. But there's something called entrainment that happens between people if they're near enough to each other. And menstruating women's cycles will come into entrainment. Family members come into entrainment. I have watched with delight my twins, the entrainment between two beings who have been so close for so long, whose lives and cycles, especially when they were smaller, just came into a beautiful rhythm together. This study's shown that when you're communicating with someone, you won't fully understand the message until you have come into entrainment with that person. So when they look at the vibrational frequencies of those people, so there'll be misunderstanding until you come into entrainment. Okay, and this is why someone working with an open heart, with compassion and understanding, who is being impeccable with their word and expressing truth and harmless with their communication, will be able to come into entrainment with people much quicker. So there's quicker understanding, there's more connection through this resonance. This is why we have sayings like, we're singing from the same hymn sheet. Okay, this is our way of describing this resonance. It's believed that autistic children may entrain to the echo of the original sound rather than the sound itself. So if you like, they are out of harmony with the world around them and have trouble coming into entrainment with people who are not on the same frequency as they are. So you know the power of sound and music to bring people together. You know the power of music. When we listen to a piece of music that really hits our heart, that really resonates with us, you know that it can evoke very strong emotions. It can evoke a powerful response in you. Music can lift you if you're down. It can inspire. It can incite anger. So these vibrations, we are tuned into them. And I'm going to do a whole another talk on using sound for healing. So the idea is that when we're in good health and we're feeling happy in ourselves, each of our chakras, for example, has a certain note. And there are seed sounds or mantras you can use for each of the chakras to help bring them back into alignment and into rhythm. And you can use tuning forks in a person's energy field and over chakras to pick up dissonance when they're out of alignment, out of resonance. And when the tuning fork is held over that chakra, because of this entrainment, the person comes back into alignment and quite powerful healing can happen. So like I say, there'll be a whole talk just on that is planned for later in the year. So in the world right here and now, we are seeing, as people's throats open and develop, we are seeing an increased expression of ideas, and the internet, this connecting web of communication through light, through electricity, through waves and frequencies, has connected us in ways that we've never been connected before. So we're getting an increased expression of ideas. We're getting an increase in truthful expression. It's much harder for countries to hide what's going on in their nation, or to brainwash citizens, or to, the world knows about events so quickly. There's also this time of the pandemic, I believe, will be working toward developing the opening of the throat chakra in many individuals, because we've had a time where we stayed at home, and many people had more time for contemplation and meditation and for going inward and quietening down to listen to that still voice within, to listen to their family members. They were together, there was more entrainment, people were coming into a resonance with each other. And then when we started to move out into the world, what we're seeing now is a real differences in opinions and ideas, but a real expression of people are thinking about the issues, they're thinking about what's going on. They're, especially if the government or the media are being held to account for some of the expression of ideas, and maybe a questioning about the truths. So all of this discussion is really healthy. We need the truthful expression from the throat. And I think we're through the internet, through the connection of many people in their homes, they have the power to demand the truth, demand truthful communication. The archetypes associated with the throat. So the positive, when the throat chakra is healthy and open and resonating, communicators, so good communicators, they recognize their right to express their hurt or their anger, but do so in such a way that it doesn't diminish the other person. They integrate both heart and mind in their communication with others. They recognize that if others don't hear what they have to say, it's not an indictment of their communicative abilities, but that person was not ready to hear it yet. So there's a recognition of that fact. Now, in the negative, the masked self. So the pain of childhood traumas, when you were asked to be seen, not heard, or made to feel that your opinions were worthless, or you didn't get an input or any say. If there was a lot of control, you didn't get a lot of say in your own lives. To cope with this rejection, we learn to suppress our true identities, because remember, the throat is all about, not just about communicating, but it's about expressing your authentic self, communicating your truth. So many people in childhood and their families didn't feel able to do that. So there's this child locked inside. And this child is, it's almost like in some people, this child is still in there and they haven't grown up and taken charge of life, and they're incapable of openly and honestly expressing their feelings. They may say yes when they want to say no. And then there's a buildup of anger and frustration and resentment. And this further blocks the throat. And this is often we get symptoms like someone's got something to say, but they just don't feel like they can say it. Okay. And it can sometimes manifest as chronic sore throats, stiff necks, thyroid problems. We'll talk a bit more about the physical manifestations. So it's not a lack of communication, it's a lack of truthful communication and expression. Sometimes these people, sometimes the masked self may appear as the clown. They're not prepared to express their authentic self, so they'll be the comedian in the room, or they'll be unrealistically positive all the time. Never say a negative word about anybody, never say a negative thing, and it's like, it's not a truthful expression. So what I want to look at now, if it's too open, okay, and we'll get people who are over talkative, they're not considering what they're saying, they're just, it's like what's streaming through their mind comes straight out in their words. Or you can get people who are very self-righteous, very dominant, very arrogant. So there's not an openness to listening to the truth from others and adjusting the perception of truth at any given time. They're dogmatic. What they know is the truth and everybody else is wrong. Okay. If it's blocked, a person will hold back from self-expression. They often cannot sing and won't sing. They can be unreliable and have inconsistent views because there's this hesitation, this worry that they won't be heard. So they don't stick to their guns and say a discussion that gets a bit more heated. So the balanced, the good communicator, they're contented. When the throat is open, the person starts to be able to calm. They will be able to start to step into a role of mediating, conflict resolution, facilitation. So anything that requires a very apt use of words and the voice. And the artistic expression often comes through. So the physical dysfunctions that can be a sign of problems in the throat chakra, not always, but can be, especially if they keep coming back. Okay, sore throats, neck ache, thyroid and hearing problems, tinnitus, sometimes asthma, although asthma can be heart and throat. Sometimes it can be a lack of a smothering, feeling like you can't express who you are. So emotional dysfunctions, you tend to get perfectionism. So rather than that natural purifying, detoxifying, cleansing effect that the throat has and a person continually cleansing and growing, we get someone who becomes over-focused on things being perfect. Blocked creativity, sort of writer's block, literally. Artists know about blocked creativity. And someone who's unable to express emotions. So the other thing I want to talk about with relation to the throat, there's a natural, with time, there's and with spiritual development, there's a harmonic resonance between the sacral chakra, Swadesthan, and Vasudi, the throat chakra. And over the course of our lifetime, it's natural for energies that were involved in creating new life, so the more sexual energy of the sacral, to move up to the throat. And what it becomes is rather than creating new life, it becomes you create your life, you express who you are. And we often see this in people if they've had children. As children grow up and move on, quite often they'll move into things that they haven't had a chance to do, ways of expressing. They might join a choir and start singing. They might start getting into something where they're expressing ideas, where they're expressing who they are. And the human voice can be a formidable force in the world. You think of the power of the voice. Think of some of the famous orators in our history. Think of Martin Luther King. Think of the power when you get a speech from Kennedy, when you get someone who has got the throat, that power coming through the voice. And the vibrations can cause changes in not just our in our physical environment and the etheric and the energy field and the emotional and mental bodies of others. And this is where things like religious chanting come in, reciting that can bring about a heightened state of consciousness, the use of mantras and meditation. So our voice is only half developed at this point in time. In the future, we will be able to manifest the creative word. We'll be able to manifest much more easily through the use of the mind and the vibration coming through the ideas of the throat. So it's a transition point between the lower chakras and the higher in the head. Okay, when we start getting into the centers in the head, and it purifies the energy moving upward, and it purifies, allows a channel and purification of the energies moving downward. And there's a synthesis. So the higher, so sometimes as the throat opens, especially as the throat and the third eye open, like I said, the person can start to become a vessel or a channel for higher expressions and higher wisdoms coming through. So as we develop collectively in the throat, telepathy will become much more more widely spread. Eventually, that is how we will communicate. There'll be no need for the actual voice box and the throat, and that telepathic communication, which we get a bit of now. We get it more through a feeling or through that resonance I was talking about, through and a connection with another person energetically. And sometimes there are connections in the mind, and there are people who exhibit clairvoyance and other capabilities that are more telepathic. So this natural progression, I'll just talk briefly, because part of the reason that many religions and belief systems weren't happy, for example, in the Catholic Church, to have priests marry, okay, is because there was this idea that the energy from the sacral chakra needed to move up into the throat for that higher, more spiritual expression. And if the priest was married, they would be sort of too much done in matter, and the energy, the expressive energy, would be caught up in the sacral chakra rather than up in the throat chakra. But what we probably understand more now is that the energy needs to flow through both, and that we see a lot of problems when that energy of the sacral chakra is blocked or repressed. And so just, you can read more about that if you want to. It is my belief, and this is totally my observation and my understanding and working with people, that many of the symptoms of the menopause in women can be alleviated when the energy from the sacral chakra, which obviously is about creating life, is allowed to move up naturally into the throat, and women realize that they're moving into a time of their life where they can be empowered, where they feel valued, and as that old way of being is let go. They step into something new. And I've had great success with people when I've helped them to just let those energies move, and many of the symptoms that are energetic type symptoms just subside. Many cultures don't have menopausal symptoms, especially when there's women in older years are valued and revered for their increasing intuitive wisdom. Okay, our culture tends to sort of, if you're past childbearing age, you kind of put on the scrap heap a little bit. Okay, and that's part of this. We need a healthy understanding of these changes in people's lives and their rhythms and their expression of who they are. Okay, so the throat is very much about expressing who you are in truth. And that honesty comes first from an open heart, and then that honesty, that purification, that integrity comes up into the throat center. So it's about listening with integrity, speaking with truth and integrity in a way that is harmless. Not an easy thing to do, and takes quite some time for that to really purify. And there'll be lots of challenges around miscommunication, lots of challenges in relationships to try and find conflict resolution that is not putting anybody down or controlling. So really humanity are working collectively with our throat at the moment. You know, we're starting to question when communication or information given to us is not truthful. We have a whole, you know, media system and political system that's perhaps not based on open throat chakras, in my opinion. Okay, so I'll leave that there. You've probably got lots of questions, and people may be able to contribute more with some of the ideas I've sparked there. But I would like to now go into the meditation. Oh, just before I do, actually, I know there was one more thing. And just run through the throat. So the color is blue, self-expression, to do with the thyroid and the parathyroid glands, to do with your calcium metabolism, the mouth, throat, and ears. The ruling planet is Mercury, and astrological associations of the throat are the two signs to do with communication, and that's Gemini and Virgo. Obviously, sound and hearing is the sense. And then in terms of the throat, chamomile and myrrh, these turquoise, aquamarine, lapis lazuli, associated here with the elephant, with the bull. We've gone through those physical problems. It's the confession, okay, in the Christian. The truthful, that's the confession in the church, that's the truthful expression. To do, we're getting up into lighter vibrational in terms of foods that help. We're getting up into the lighter vibrational foods. And it's really the age in our late 20s through to our through to our late 30s, really, where we really step into expressing who we are in truth. Although obviously the development of the throat, and some people will hardly be spinning or open at all. And it is definitely starting to open in increasing numbers of people on the planet, which is wonderful. Okay. So let everything I've just talked about go. And I want you to get yourself comfortable sitting upright so that the chakras are aligned vertically. And we just want to repeat the affirmation of love, because it opens our heart and brings our hearts together in a united intention. So repeat it with me or silently to yourself. In the center of all love I stand. From that center I, the soul, will outward move. From that center I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and throughout the world. So gently close your eyes. And I want to begin by grounding your energy. So imagine you're sending an energetic connection from your base chakra, base of your spine, or through your feet, down deep into the earth. Recognizing that you are a spiritual being, grounded in the energy of this planet, having a human experience. Now bring yourself into an awareness of your physical body, bringing yourself into this moment of time. Just be aware of your body sitting on the chair. Be aware of the clothes on your skin. Now take that awareness to the sense of listening. And just allow the sounds to come in. If thoughts about the sounds arise, let them go and simply listen. And now take your awareness to your breath. And just watching the breath as it comes into your body. And watching the breath as it leaves. With each breath, feel your body relax. And allow the breath to go a little deeper. Now just keep a gentle focus on the breath. And when thoughts arise in your mind, or sounds or physical feelings distract you, as soon as you realize, just come back to the breath. And just let the breath take you down into a quiet place within you. As you focus on the breath, just allow thoughts to simply pass into your mind, pass through. Now bring your focus to the center of your chest. And just imagine you're breathing into your heart center. With each breath, there's a slowly expanding and opening. A feeling of expansion in your chest. Imagine that as you breathe, you are filling your heart with light and with love, and with the feeling of gratitude that will open the heart. Imagine that through your heart, you can connect with your soul or your higher self. Now bring white or violet purple or gold light down from your higher self through the crown of your head and down through all the major energy centers or chakras in your body, bringing them into a beautiful alignment. Now see your heart as the vessel that receives and distributes this light throughout your physical body. So imagine your whole physical body filling with this purifying, cleansing, and healing light. Bringing vibrant health, strong immune system, bringing calm to your emotions, strengthening your mind, bringing all aspects of your being into a beautiful alignment and a harmony. Now see or feel this light flow out into the etheric energy body that surrounds your physical body. Now allow it to fill your home, sending out a beautiful heart vibrational frequency to all the living beings in your home. Now send it out into your street, your neighborhood, so that as the light pours in through you, it radiates out to fill your whole community. Now continue to let it radiate out, to flow out into the town or the city in which you live. See or feel this light connecting with the light of all the others who are joining us in this group meditation, whether it be live or recorded, so that together our light can fill this nation. And this is lighted love. Now imagine this light flowing out to fill this whole part of the world, bringing it into resonance. Now imagine that light flowing out to fill this whole northern hemisphere. And then to fill the southern hemisphere. Joining with the light of all groups who work in meditation in this way throughout the world, so that together we all fill this world with lighted love. Now imagine you can see our whole planet from space, and you can see an aura of beautiful light surrounding our planet, a purifying, cleansing, healing light. See it healing and restoring the balance in nature, so that our air and our water are clean, fresh and pure. Our planet is healed. She has a healthy ozone layer. See all the animals and plant life flourishing. And see this light flowing down into the hearts and minds of all of mankind. Bringing all into the resonance of the heart. Bringing peace, goodwill, and right relations between all people. Lifting our awareness and our collective consciousness so that we can learn to live in peace and in harmony with all. So that truth pervades and truthful communication pervades. Visualize these energies unifying and eliminating all divisions within humanity, healing and transforming human consciousness, and establishing right human relations within each person, between people, between families, within communities, within nations, between nations, with the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the mineral kingdom, and the higher realms. Now hold a space in your heart for this energy and continue to let it radiate out, joining with your sisters and brothers who work in this way. And now let us join together to repeat the Great Invocation. Repeat it with conviction. Repeat it with all of the power of your throat, of this beautiful throat center. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. And now gently come back and bring all your energy back into your own energy field. Coming back into an awareness of your physical body. And just opening your eyes when you are ready. Namaste. Now we open up to discussion, questions, comments. If you just let me know if you want to speak and I can ask you to unmute. Or if you don't want to be on the video, you can pop a question or a comment in the chat and I'll read that out. So, as always, you all look a bit dazed after the meditation. The more we work together as a group, every week when we're coming together in this meditation, we're building up that entrainment and that resonance between our frequencies. So our power as a group amplifies the more we work together. So you may even be feeling the energy in the meditation more as we go along. And this is the beauty of building a group that works together. And especially as groups learn to not just work individually and they learn to join up with other groups, that power amplifies. You know, if we had lots of groups all meditating and they all joined in that beautiful wave, imagine the amplification. Okay, and this is part of the power of group meditation. No one's got any questions, comments for me? Oh, Finian, good. I'll ask you to unmute.
Hello, Teresa.
Hello.
First of all, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. Two things I wanted to think about that aren't really related. This business about entrainment, something that I've worked with since the 80s, is the ideas of Hemisync and the Monroe Institute. Simply put, I can call it techno-shamanism. because it's not new at all. But what they do is they train the brain by the use of sound using headphones to get both sides of the brain working together in harmony with itself, as a gateway to take you a lot deeper into these things that we're working with. One of the ways I can express it, in our normal consciousness, the brain works and looks on the MRI machine a bit like a Christmas pudding dough, with different bits and pieces all sort of doing their own thing in a haphazard manner. If you get into the hemisync trick of using your natural brain ability, you can get more of your brain working in harmony with itself, which takes you a lot deeper. I mean, I haven't been on any of their courses because they're in America and very expensive. But even Zen meditators say they've done more in a week with them than they have in 20 years in a monastery, because it just sort of speeds things up.
Yeah.
What you're saying about entrainment is absolutely true.
Yeah.
It's something, as I say, I like to work with. And I like to, it's one of my hobby horses. I jump up on it and say something every so often. But I think it's very, very powerful and very useful in the sort of development that we're talking about.
Well, even just for, you know, on a simpler level, all the soundtracks and things on YouTube that are working at certain frequency resonances that you can have playing in the background, or you can use to help you sleep or meditate, that are bringing your brain waves into an entrainment with a certain frequency.
Absolutely. The other thing I wanted to say is a slightly ironic comment. Isn't it amazing? These days we're all expected to wear masks and we're floating in the sea of fake news.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, my thought on that is, for goodness sake, we've got to stand up to the truth and not put up with any of the nonsense. We've got to see through it.
We're starting to see increasing dissidence. We're getting scientists speaking up. We're getting, and this is where the beauty of social media, when it's used as a tool of truth. Social media is not often used as a tool of truth, but it can be. It can be something.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll wear a mask if I'm in the shopping precinct to protect other people and protect myself. But don't laugh, but I have terrible trouble with the darn things. I find I can't breathe.
Yeah.
I get choked up in my own CO2.
This is true. And also the mask, of course, is affecting our ability to communicate with each other, isn't it? So with all this false news, and then masking the people, and you even find, like, even if you're at the post office, you have to repeat yourself several times for them to hear what you're saying. So yes, it is very, it's not ironic, and it's something, if you look deeper at what's going on, you recognize the challenges of the purification of the throat chakra at work, both individually and collectively. You know, people have been forced into their homes to deal with whatever issues their family has. Do you see what I mean? The communication, the
that one shot.
people are mental health problems are on the increase. Emotional problems are on the increase.
That one shot.
So
I totally agree, Teresa. Yes.
Yeah. Has anybody else? Has anybody else got any more comments or questions? Yeah, Michael, good. I could see you had something brewing.
Thank you for a very interesting talk. Also very, very topical. And I only wanted to add a very quick note, and as much as this entrainment we're talking about is our own voice, and it's kind of us all kind of getting a level of independence, because the point I wanted to make with is, if we don't discover our own entrainment, one will be given to us via the media or social media. And so this is kind of a quest for mental independence.
Yes.
And so anyone who's kind of achieved a level of self-awareness, then they need to go with it and expand on it and work on their own kind of independence entrainment and alongst like-minded souls, and resist any entrainment enforced upon you.
And this is the power of propaganda. I mean, the thing about the throat is where someone really steps into taking responsibility, spiritually, on all levels. And the entrainment of propaganda, I mean, if you look at history, the power of orators to entrain a nation, I'm thinking of Germany, and use that power of the voice and the power of the spoken word. But equally, what we have now is we have increasing avenues for the little person to have a say, for expression that's not mainstream media or that's not propaganda, but to ask and demand the truth.
And I think it's that confidence of your own voice and opinion, because you may be going against the consensus, we're living in those times where any kind of independence might be seen as kind of rebelliousness, but it's actually quite healthy. It
is healthy. And there's also a link to when someone challenges what you are saying, it forces you to review it and to run that by your higher self and run it through your conscience and maybe tweak and change your perception, because we perceive the truth. We have to be very spiritually advanced to know the truth. And I'm going to talk more about what happens between perception and knowing. So really our versions of the truth, we want to entrain those to the highest, not the lowest common denominator. And the trouble is fear will drop people right down. And when there's too much fear, the throat closes up. You know what happens when you're really fearful? You lose your voice. You can't scream. You can't speak up. You freeze. And I think I posted it on Facebook. The KGB did a study in the 60s where they found if they bombarded people for 2 months with messages of fear, they sufficiently brainwashed them that they could get them to believe anything thereafter.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So don't be brainwashed, stay in your own power. And I've put a video out where it teaches you, if you feel you're being pulled into fear, how can you step back into empowerment and standing in your truth, and weighing up what people are saying. Run it through your rational mind and run it through your intuitive, your higher self. Does it resonate with truth? The truth has a vibrational feeling to it. And part of the reason that we can recognize truth is because we are truth. Okay. Part of the reason we can recognize beauty is because we are beauty. Part of the reason we know what goodness is because we are goodness. And these 3 qualities are soul qualities. They are your essence. And so when someone speaks with truth, it has a certain vibrational quality to it. And no person, no masked self can fake that. Energy doesn't lie. Okay, you can't fake energy. You can't fake vibrational frequency. You can fake words, but you can't fake the vibration at which they come from. And I mean, I think of my kids, especially when they were smaller, they were so frustrated because I always knew when they were lying. They could say whatever, and maybe I was reading body language, but it has And you can tell when someone, you know, even if they're in floods of tears and they're an emotional mess, you can tell at the point where someone reaches their truth. There's a breakthrough moment. There's a purifying and a cleansing moment when someone reaches a truth. And you know yourself, it can really hit you when you realize a truth. And it might be something that you have held on to for a long time and you have to let go of to allow that understanding of the truth. So yeah, it's a wonderful topic. It really is. Right, if nobody else has got any further questions, I think I'll leave it there. And I'd just like to say thank you for those who were able to join me live, and for those who are watching the recording. Thank you. And like I say, there will be a talk later this year, probably around November, where I'll focus more on the power of sound. I mean, civilizations past have used sound to move rocks and to move physical matter. And I'm actually giving a longer talk at the Leeds Lodge about sound and sound vibration. So I'll give you some information on that. Otherwise, have a lovely evening and thank you. Namaste.